For girls had a small cart. A rich man hit their cart with his car. He was mean and drove away. The girls were sad. They followed him everywhere. They wore pretty scarves. The rich man saw the scarves and remembered his mother. She made the same scarves. He felt sorry. He helped the girls and their families. He gave them jobs and school money. The girls made the rich man kind again. The whole town became better. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. The expensive black car screeched to a halt, narrowly missing the small wooden cart that 4 little girls had been pushing across the street. Fruits and handmade crafts scattered across the pavement as the girls jumped back in fear. "Watch where you're going," shouted Mr. Victor Stone, rolling down his window. The tall, imposing millionaire glared at the children. "You've scratched my car." "We're sorry, sir," said Amina, the oldest at 11 years old. But the light was red for cars. Mr. Stone's face darkened with anger. "Do you know how much this car costs? More than your families will make in 10 years. Without another word, he sped away, leaving the girls to gather their ruined goods from the dirty street. Amina, Sarah, Noor and little Layla, known in the neighborhood as the Rainbow Girls for the colorful scarves they always wore, stood in silence, watching the expensive car disappear around the corner. "Everything is ruined," whispered Layla, the youngest at 7. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she picked up a smashed clay figure she had made to sell. "That was Mr. Stone," said Sarah, wiping dust from a bruised apple. "My mother cleans his mansion. She says he owns half the buildings in town, including the one our families live in." The girls lived in the same apartment building in Meadowbrook, a once thriving town now struggling after the main factory had closed. Their families shared 2 apartments between them, cousins and sisters trying to make ends meet through odd jobs and small crafts they sold at the local market. "He didn't even help us," Noor said angrily, tying her green scarf tighter. "He could have at least paid for what got destroyed." Amina stood up, her eyes flashing with determination beneath her red scarf. "Then we'll make him pay." The other girls looked at her in surprise. "Not with meanness," Amina clarified. "With persistence. My grandmother always said that the strongest force in the world isn't anger, it's persistence." That evening the 4 girls made a pact. They would follow Mr. Stone everywhere until he acknowledged the damage he had caused, not just to their cart but to their dignity. The next morning they stationed themselves outside the massive iron gates of his mansion. When his car emerged, they stood in a neat row, their colorful scarves bright against their simple clothes. Mr. Stone frowned as he spotted them. "What are you doing here? Get away from my property." "We want to talk to you about yesterday," Amina said politely but firmly. "About our cart and our goods that got destroyed." "I have nothing to say to you," he replied coldly. "Guard, keep these children away from my house." But the Rainbow Girls were not easily deterred. When Mr. Stone arrived at his office building downtown, they were waiting by the entrance. When he went to the exclusive country club for lunch, they stood across the street. When he attended a business meeting at the Grand Hotel, they waited patiently in the lobby. Days passed. Mr. Stone tried to ignore them, then tried to intimidate them, but the girls never raised their voices or caused a scene. They simply showed up, everywhere, with quiet determination. People in town began to notice. They whispered about the cold-hearted millionaire and the 4 little girls with colorful scarves. Some offered the children money, but they always refused. "We don't want charity," Amina would explain. "We want justice and respect." On the 7th day it rained heavily. Mr. Stone exited his office to find the 4 girls standing across the street, soaked to the bone but still waiting. Their colorful scarves had faded in the downpour, but their resolve had not. Something inside him stirred uncomfortably. "This has gone on long enough," he muttered, striding across the street. "What will it take for you to stop this nonsense?" he demanded. Layla, the youngest, stepped forward, shivering slightly. "You hurt our feelings more than our cart, sir. You treated us like we were nothing." Mr. Stone was about to deliver a harsh retort when he noticed Layla's scarf, a faded blue that looked strangely familiar. In fact, all their scarves seemed to trigger something in his memory. "Where did you get those scarves?" he asked abruptly. "Our grandmother made them for us before she died," Noor explained. "She said each color represents something important. Red for courage, yellow for hope, green for growth, and blue for dreams." Mr. Stone felt dizzy suddenly. 30 years ago, his mother had owned a small textile shop where she made colorful scarves with those exact meanings. She had died when he was just 12, leaving him to grow up in foster homes where he learned to be hard and cold to survive. "What was your grandmother's name?" he asked, his voice suddenly hoarse. "Miriam," Sarah replied. Mariam Hassan. She used to own a textile shop before the old mall was torn down to build your office building. The world seemed to tilt beneath Mr. Stone's feet. Mariam Hassan had been his mother's best friend. These children, could they be related to the family who had tried to help him after his mother died? The family he had rejected in his anger and grief? "Come with me," he said quietly, leading them to a nearby cafe. Over hot chocolate the girls told their stories. Their parents worked multiple jobs but still struggled to pay the increasing rent in the building Mr. Stone had purchased last year. The handmade crafts and fruit cart had been their way of helping their families, saving for school supplies and sometimes medicine. "We don't want money for nothing," Amina explained. "We want to earn it and learn how to make things better ourselves." As they spoke, Mr. Stone saw himself in them, the pride, the determination, the refusal to be broken. But where his drive had turned to bitterness and greed, theirs remained pure and full of hope despite their circumstances. "What happened to your parents?" Sarah asked suddenly. "My mother says everyone has a story." The question caught him off guard. No one had asked about his past in years. "My mother died when I was young," he replied stiffly. "She made scarves too." "And did she teach you her special wisdom for each color?" asked Layla innocently. "Red for courage to face each day," Mr. Stone found himself reciting. "Yellow for hope that never fades. Green for growth through hardship. Blue for dreams that light the way." The girls stared at him in wonder. "That's exactly what our grandmother said," exclaimed Noor. Mr. Stone couldn't sleep that night. He pulled out an old box he hadn't opened in decades. Inside was a faded photograph of his mother standing with her friend Mariam, both wearing colorful scarves and smiling at the camera. There was also a small note in Mariam's handwriting offering to take him in after his mother died, an offer his 12-year-old self had rejected out of grief and anger. He had spent his life building walls and fortune, buying the very buildings where his mother and her friend had once lived and worked, raising rents to maximize profits without ever knowing who his tenants were. Had he become the very thing his mother had warned him against? The next day Mr. Stone didn't go to his meetings. Instead, he visited 2 humble apartments in the building he owned. He saw the conditions the families lived in, met parents who worked themselves to exhaustion, and understood the girls' determination. That evening he called the girls to his office. "I've been thinking about your persistence," he said formally. "It's impressed me." The girls watched him cautiously. "I'm going to replace your cart and everything that was damaged," he continued. "But that's not all. I'm starting a special program at my company. It's for promising students who want to learn business and art. You'll come 3 times a week after school. You'll study, help with projects, and earn fair pay. When you're older, if you're still interested, there will be scholarships for college." The girls exchanged glances of disbelief. "But that's not all," Mr. Stone continued. "I'm reducing the rent in your building and starting repairs immediately. I'm offering your parents better paying positions in my companies if they're interested. And I'm establishing a community center in the old textile district with a special section dedicated to the craft of scarf making." Tears shone in the girl's eyes, but Mr. Stone wasn't finished. "I'm not giving charity. Your families will work hard and so will you. This is an investment in Meadowbrook's future, and in my past." What Mr. Stone didn't fully explain was how the colorful scarves had cracked open the wall around his heart. He didn't tell them that their grandmother had tried to save him from a life of bitterness, or that he had forgotten his mother's teachings until 4 persistent little girls reminded him. The changes in Meadowbrook began quickly. The Rainbow Program, as it came to be known, expanded to include more children from struggling families. Mr. Stone established a foundation to support small businesses and education initiatives. 3 months later, Mr. Stone attended the opening of the new community center. The Rainbow Girls had helped design the textile section, which featured a wall display about the history of scarf making in Meadowbrook. "Mr. Stone," called Layla, running up to him excitedly. "Look what we found in the old records." She held up a faded photograph, the same one he kept in his box at home. His mother and Mariam, arms linked, wearing their colorful scarves. "The record says these 2 women started the scarf tradition in Meadowbrook," Sarah explained. "One was our grandmother, but nobody knows what happened to the other woman's son." Mr. Stone touched the small piece of colorful fabric he now kept in his pocket. 4 small squares sewn together, red, yellow, green, and blue. "I think her son finally found his way home," he said softly. Word spread about the millionaire and the 4 determined girls who had melted his frozen heart. Visitors to Meadowbrook would often hear the story of the Rainbow Girls and how their quest for simple justice had transformed not just one man's life, but an entire town. Years later, when asked about his greatest achievement, Mr. Stone would touch the colorful squares in his pocket and say, "I learned that true revenge isn't about getting even, it's about getting better. For little girls taught me that the best revenge against a hard world is to create a softer one." And the Rainbow Girls? They grew into remarkable women who never forgot their humble beginnings or the power of persistence. Proof that sometimes the smallest hands can open the largest hearts, and that the most powerful force for change isn't anger, but unwavering hope dressed in colorful scarves.